And now, Clutch Radio with Rafi and Dan. Here's Dan Rosenberg and Rafi Manassian.
Good morning. We start the show every time like that, and they can't hear the music. We just look like a bunch of bouncing fools.
Yeah, the music stopped at that point. Well, good morning. Welcome to Clutch Radio. It's Saturday, September 26th, 2020. It's 10 a.m. or so on the West Coast. And this is the show that we talk about cars.
Cars, indeed.
Lots and lots of stuff about cars. I'm Dan. That's Rafi over there.
Howdy.
There he is.
There you go.
If you're listening to the podcast, we do this live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Yeah, it's weird to get the point right because you have to wait.
Go the opposite direction.
Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. If you want to watch the show, we're on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. You just have to follow at Clutch Radio on Facebook, and you'll get all the information.
There you go.
Every week, we talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. We usually have people post their questions in the comments, and then we answer them, or we get some emails. Each week, we have a topic or two. Rafi, we talk about some old school stuff soon. But last week, we touched on something. And I wanted to kind of get it going this week, and that is auto auctions.
Oh yeah,
that the public can buy from. So this is not your dealer auction that are this mysterious, which really aren't that mysterious. It's like a mysterious world that you're not supposed to be in, and you have to be a dealer only to go to the dealer auctions. And it is interesting, having been to, probably hundreds of them now, that it doesn't seem mysterious, although it used to for me. Even when I was in the car business, I always would go to the used car manager and be like, tell me more about the auction. Can you take me to the auction?
Take me.
And they're always like, no.
Lead me.
Yes. But the public auction, almost every town, wherever you are in the country, has a public auto auction. Some are real, true auctions, and some are car dealers that perceive themselves to be auctions. And the difference is, in the way you can tell, who owns the cars. If, there's a car auction you go to every week and the dealer is the one that's actually selling the cars, then that's not really, it's an auction, but it's really not a true auction because they own the product. If there are people consigning the cars to the auction, like Joe Schmo down the street wants to get rid of his car, and he's like, I'm going to take it to the auction, see if I can get some good money for it, instead of putting it on Craigslist or Facebook or something like that. And those cars, each car is owned by somebody other than the auction. The auction's just facilitating the sale, just like they would in a dealer auction. And here there's one in town in the Seattle area that's pretty big called Stokes.
Oh yeah.
And they've been around forever. Are you familiar with them at all, Rafi?
Yeah. I remember those guys. They're an independent auction house. They actually serve wholesale dealer needs for the more than just the Seattle area. I think they're Seattle, Tacoma, surrounding areas as well.
They're in Port Orchard is where their monthly auction is, which is now online, as most are. Now, there's different versions of Stokes, because there's also the local Stokes auction. It's a public auction. Some of them are dealer cars. There are dealers that consign it, like our friend Ray, who pops in quite often on the show.
Yeah.
But there are also, if you want to sell your car, you can take it there. If you've got a car sitting around the house and you're just like, I got to get rid of it, you can send it to that auction and sell it that way.
Oh, that's good.
And it's a multi-generational family, the Stokes family. One of the guys, and I'm forgetting his first name, which is horrible. He is an auctioneer at all the, like Manheim and Odessa and DAA and CarMax. They use local auctioneers. And he also does like charity auctions and stuff like that. And I know that his father is the one who started Stokes Auction in Port Orchard. It's now been sold to some other company. It's no longer the Stokes family that owns it. But they used to do it once a month on an early Saturday morning. and you would go out, and there's a huge field full of cars, and they run them through. And I believe there is no reserve on their cars. All their cars are pure sale.
Now, Dan, you said that private parties, individuals could bring their car and consign it to the auction?
At Stokes, yes.
Oh, okay. So if I had a car and I didn't want to deal with the sale privately, I would just simply contact Stokes, take my car there, and they would then place it into the auction.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I
Let me see
wouldn't
if I can-
necessarily get the money that I would hope to get private party because dealers are buying at the level that they would expect wholesale pricing to be.
Correct.
But
Let
that
me
might
just
be
double-
better than I get trade-in.
It could be, because it depends on who is, how the car's presented, obviously.
Sure.
I'm trying to find the form on their website. I know they used to have a form that you could use. They also do merchandise at Stokes. It's not just car sales. They have other things that they can sell.
Well, I know that in most auction situations, it used to be for dealer auctions that you had to be, I don't know, some sort of special dealer anointing to go there. You had to have some dealer credential or something of that sort to get in, and you could go with a friend that happened to be a dealer, and then you could make a bid on something. But I think a lot of those rules have changed at least in recent years, to where there's more limitation behind the purchases that go out of these dealer auctions. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that at least when a dealer makes a purchase on a car, the car is brought into their dealership and prepared for sale. So they'll check the tires, they'll check the brakes, they'll do their diligence to make sure that the vehicle is safe. People who purchase as private parties will just bring it home and start driving it. There could be some problems with the car that the private party is unaware of. So at least with that umbrella and the dealer auctions, they know that there'll be some protection for the consumer that goes to buy the car with the dealer.
Correct. If you buy it through a dealer. Now, that is one of the risks of buying at an auction. Now, they do have, I pulled up their website here for Stokes, which is one of the locals here in the Seattle area, but they're like I said, just Google public auto auction. They're all over the place. There are other ones in the Seattle area. I'm not familiar with as much. I know some of the guys go to the other regular car auctions and they're buying cars for their auction.
Yeah.
And then they're flipping them there.
Yeah.
And they have their own auction. They charge 35% for the general items at this auction. Titled vehicles are 12.5% with a $75 minimum and a $35 entry fee per vehicle. Car must be in running conditions. You have to drive it there, or at least it has to be running and driving when it gets there. And the title must be in your name. So you can't, unless you're a dealer, you can't sell a car that's not owned by you.
So if you sell your car at auction for $100, it costs $35 to get in. They take 35%. And
no, general merchandise 35. Cars are 12.5%.
Oh, okay.
But it's got a $75 minimum. So you're at 175 plus. You're at $110.
Yeah.
So anything over that's yours.
Okay, so you gotta make sure that you're pretty well covered there, because
Right.
a lot of times a car can go into a dealer auction and you just sit there and die. You got a car that could retail for $2,500, $3,000, and it's getting no bids, and it goes out the door for $100. Now it
Right.
might need $1,500 worth of work, but still, that leaves you with basically nothing.
Correct. And dealers usually go with the volume. Like they'll take 20 cars at a time.
Yeah.
And they'll hope, I'm going to lose on some. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
Our average, when I had multiple cars running through an auction, if we could end up with $600 a car profit, we were like, okay, we did okay. So
Sure.
You hit one car early and it makes $3,500 profit. You're like, all right, I could lose or break even on the next 5 cars.
Yeah.
and still end up being ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So that's the important stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're gonna buy a car at auction, most auctions have preview times where you can go in and check the car out. You know, pop the radiator cap off. You know, do the pinky. It's a bit nutty. Check the flavor.
Yeah, you want to do that. You want to check the flavor of all the fluids in the car.
Yes, you do not want to do that. You do want to smell. People smell the dipstick.
Oh, I don't know why. What are they smelling for? Burner?
I think I thought maybe you would have the answer, but people they're like, and I guess the rubbing. You want to feel if it's gritty, like if there's metal shavings or something in there, or
I don't know.
The oil should have good smooth viscosity. I think they're smelling for gas.
You're checking the oil when the car's engine is generally cool. That's the time you want to check the oil.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to do it when it's hot.
So you're taking it out. So you're rubbing your fingers together, feeling for metal particles. I got news for you. The metal going to drop to the bottom of the pan. You're not going to be feeling any metal particles in there. And smelling it, I guess you're smelling to smell if it's burned, but that's going to be obvious to you if the car has white smoke coming out of it when it's running. So there's really no reason to be rubbing your fingers in the oil, unless, of course, you want to use it as moisturizer.
Right. You might want to just kind of, oh, yeah, this is good. All right. I like this. I like where we're going.
A little behind the ears.
Yeah. For later. You're going out in the evening. You want to tap. But, these auctions are, they're not collector auctions. We're not talking about the collector auction. We're talking about I want a daily driver.
Yeah.
That, I need a car for my kid.
Yeah.
Although personally, I would rather have a newer car that I know runs and drives very well for my son versus a junker.
Yeah. And your son's coming up on when he's going to need a car too. So we're going to have to start looking for something for him.
Yeah. I mean, I've got the Kia Soul he's happy with.
Oh, he likes that.
Yeah.
All right.
So he's good with that. Now, Jake in the comments is asking about something that I have seen a few times, Lucky Dog auction that keeps showing up when you do searches for older cars in this area. And I'm not seeing them now on Craigslist. So they must have all come down. Maybe there was a scam. They had like these really nice high-end cars. There's like upcoming Lucky Dog auction. I'm not really sure what it was. If there was an online auction.
I'm not familiar with that. I've heard the name before. I'm not familiar with it at all. But you always want to be careful with a lot of these auction houses because many of them, they don't have a staff that previews the vehicles. So you have very little way of knowing what's going on with the history of the car. You'll get a car that has often been done up quickly with quick body work, quick paint, quick detail under the hood. The car looks and presents well. And you go ahead and you bid it up, and you get a car that you think you like, but after a little more inspection, it's revealed that it's not really what you were looking for. Nothing wrong with buying a car that needs work, but you want to be careful that you don't overpay for it.
Okay, I found out who they are. They were advertising on Facebook. They're not a scam. They're advertising on Facebook all over the place. Wherever you search locally for older cars, they were spending the money and listing their cars. They had a consignment auction back in August at LeMay, apparently.
Oh, okay.
They had 200 plus cars. The Fall Classic was the 20th through 30th.
Okay.
So they're in Tacoma, Cosmopolitan Motors. So that's what that was. They currently, I guess they're waiting for the next auction. This was just a
Cosmopolitan Motors. Is Lucky Dog Auctions a division, or is that their auction division for Cosmopolitan Motors? Because
have you heard of Cosmopolitan?
Oh,
Motors?
yeah. They've been around for a long time. They've been in the Seattle area. They frequently feature vintage vehicles, and they do get a lot of cars that need restoration. So they're a good source in Seattle. They're a good source for vintage cars, unusual vintage cars. They get a lot of Italian stuff. They find some pretty good cars. So if they're putting an auction together, if Lucky Dog is their auction brand, I think that's a good opportunity for people because Cosmopolitan's been around for a long time. They have a good reputation. Their cars are not perfect, I'll say that, but they get a wide range of cars that are great for hobbyists who want to do their own work, fix them up, and I'm sure they get cars that are also restored. I don't want to say that some of their restored cars are not up to snuff, but they are well respected. They've been around at least 30, maybe even 40 years now. I've known of them since the early 90s. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's who it is. Lucky Car Auctions.
Lucky Dog.
It's just luckyoldcar.com.
Oh, Lucky Old Car. I thought you said Lucky Dog.
That's what Jake wrote on the comments, Lucky Dog Auction. And I remember he asked about that before, and I was like, I don't know what that means. But then I remember, wait a minute, I remember because in my search for a 1970, a car with my birthday, I would find the dogs.
They're auctioning dogs off. I bought a Greyhound. It was fabulous.
Now they do sell die. They also had a part of their auction were die-cast model cars, which you're very familiar with.
Oh yeah, wow.
I wonder if any of these were some of yours.
It could be. I've done a lot of them over the years. There's probably.
Did you do any of the Virago brand?
No, that's basically the high volume big box brand. The Virago does some very nice models for very low cost. You can get some really nice 1/18 scale supercar models for $20 to $40.
Oh,
yeah, but they're not considered a precision die cast model.
Gotcha.
To get to precision level, you need more than 100 parts.
And the Lucky Auction, which is a local one, now that takes me to companies like Mecum, or the Barrett Jackson.
Sure.
These are different auctions. These are anybody can buy. You don't have to be a dealer, obviously. It is a public auction. The cars are usually higher end cars that you're not going to see a lot of. You're not going to see any jalopies. You might see a barn find.
Jalopy. That's a term I haven't heard in a long time.
Jalopy?
They're not going to see any jalopies.
Oh, we use jalopy at Tread all the time.
Really?
Internally, we're like, yeah, let's get this jalopy listed.
The other term that I heard some years ago was hoopty.
Oh, hoopty, sure.
Yeah. Jalopy, it goes back. That's a word my mom would have used. Get that jalopy out of here, along with hobo. Okay.
Ray is correcting me. He says Leanne Stokes still owns the auction, although their website does show Boardman something other company that owns it.
Oh, okay.
So she partnered with auctioneer Brian, but she and her father own all the land and still live on the premises. Okay, so they partnered with somebody on the auction.
There you go.
He also said they used to have 800 to 1,000 people prior to the COVID at each auction. And they do have a dealer's license. They sell as a dealer under the format of an auction, but so they basically would then buy the car from the seller and sell it to the buyer.
Okay, so
there's a form. They must tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about their vehicle, and they drive each vehicle prior to selling. If false info is given, the buyer can return the car. Okay. So they are transparent. Well, thank you, Ray, for that information. I've never been to that auction. I've many Saturday mornings when they were doing it, I'm like, I'm going to go do it. But when we first moved here, I was doing the radio show in Los Angeles from the same room where we are right now. Yeah. And I was unable to ever go. And then I had basketball, and then I just have never gone. Now it's digital. Anybody can go.
Yeah.
Ray, if you're still listening, do you know how many people are online?
Oh, that's a good question, because
how many people, if they had 800 or 1,000 people showing up in person, I would imagine now that there's no constraints of having to get there, do they have more people? Are the results better now that it's in person?
It's possible that they could be better. I know that the auction houses, even the major auction houses, have increased their online presence basically out of necessity, because we're coming up on a year here where service has not been available, and companies like that, they rely very heavily on 3 or 4 major auctions to be able to make their nut. So to miss 1 or 2 is scary to the business. To miss 3 or 4 will put them under. So,
yeah. Now the Mecum, I had experience with the Mecum auction. And the son of Meekum, I forgot his name. I'm not good with names this today, but his last name was Meekum. Actually called me because I was trying to sell my Marty McFly pickup truck.
Uh-huh.
And I had a really stupid high reserve because I didn't really want to sell it. I just wanted to get on NBC because I thought maybe it would make it on TV. It didn't.
Yeah.
But I did have after the auction, some people were interested in it, and they called me and they said, "Hey, what's the bottom line?" And I stupidly bought a Fiero that day.
Oh, I remember the Fiero.
Yeah, you should always buy the car after your car sells, not before. Like if I would have waited to find out my car wasn't going to sell, I could have probably not bought the Fiero. I just remember my son looking at me going, "Oh, you in trouble?"
And he knew. He knew.
I did sell it for exactly what the hammer price was.
There you go. You made your money.
Yeah, but you helped me change the heater core in it.
So that was the day.
I did lose a few dollars overall.
Yeah, because the fee you paid me for changing the heater core.
Did I pay you a fee?
I don't even remember. It doesn't matter anyway.
I think we went to lunch.
I do that stuff all the time. You never know. I've helped interns at companies where I've worked. I've helped do the brakes on their car. I've helped change out radiators. The minute you tell somebody you know cars pretty well and you work on them, it's like owning a truck. Before you know it, you're everybody's best friend, and you're moving them, and you're moving their kid to college. You're moving, you're putting mattresses in your pickup truck and getting doors home from Home Depot. Yeah, but back to auctions.
Yes,
you mentioned Meekum. There's a whole other tier that happens above that where you get some very high-end auctions, and these are the Gooding and Company, the RM auctions, the premier auction houses that will participate at major Concours d'Elegance events with multi-million-dollar cars. Gooding has recently done some online auctions, and they've had tremendous success with I believe their past two online auctions, selling multiple $1-million cars. So the auction format works very well. And of course, you and I have talked frequently on this show about one of our favorites, the online auction company, Bring a Trailer. And Bring a Trailer has done a fantastic job, literally, of almost inventing the online auction forum. Now, some people say, well, eBay's been an online auction forum for more than a decade, and that's true. And they even have a classic portion of their online auction. But what Bring a Trailer's secret has been is that they have comments. So you put your car up for auction for a week. That's a week's worth of scrutiny from people all over the online community that oftentimes will have tremendous pinpointed experience that they can apply to that specific auction. So if they're looking at a car and they can say, hey, there's something not quite right about that rear bumper, and I was a bumper specialist at the repair place for Porsches, and I know that this bumper is not a factory bumper. And then they'll explain to you the fasteners are not right, the screws are put in upside down, this is not correct. And that makes a big difference, because with that kind of I don't know how it's somewhat curated by the community, because you can tell if somebody knows what they're talking about or if they're just trying to blow hard for whatever reason. But it works very well, because that's a good way to get your car sort of inspected by the online community, and then feel more confident about your bidding. So they're a great source of online auctions, particularly for classic cars, for vintage sports cars, but they also will have new cars there as well. And then, of course, the Gooding and RM auctions, if you're looking for a serious collector car, $100,000, $250,000 or $1 million car, it's a great place to go.
Yeah, and we have talked a little bit about Bring a Trailer before, and it's a community. It really is. It's not just a place to go buy and sell cars, because it started really right as a place where they're listing cars that were out there, and then they started doing, actually you could list your car on the site and sell it.
You're absolutely right. The whole idea was, hey, I'm going to go buy a car and I'm going to need to bring a trailer to bring it home. So this car didn't even run, or it would be in boxes of parts. So it was a bunch of car guys, experts already, that were picking this thing up, picking that thing up. Oh, did you just pick up a 911? Yeah, I did, but it's got no engine. Well, I got an engine for it. Do you want it? Yeah, contact me. That's what it was. So it was a group of enthusiasts that really wanted to just sort of build a community. And that's how it got started. And then, of course, if you had a car for sale, you could post something and say, hey, I've got this 1938 Buick, and it runs, stops, and drives and all that. I'm done with it. Anybody want it? And somebody will pop in and say, yeah, I'll give you $2,500 for it. Another guy would pop in and say, that's not enough. I'll give you $3,000. And then they started realizing, hey, maybe we should sell cars. So they started showing them for sale, and little by little, they realized they had a forum that they could do auctions for. And I believe in 2015, they had their first auction. I think the one that I did, the first one I did with them, was one of the first cars that bid over $100,000 on their auction. And at that point, yeah. At that point, they went, wow, this thing could really work. Because if you're selling $100,000 cars on Bring a Trailer, for goodness sakes, they were formerly known for $2,500 piles of junk that people would scratch their head about. So that started changing things tremendously. And now they've had several multi-million-dollar or million-dollar sales.
And there's another one called barnfinds.com, which is still, they kind of list cars. Hey, we found this one on Craigslist. Hey, look at this one on eBay. And that's kind of what, I mean, they were trying to compete with the early version of Bring a Trailer. And I've referred people to Bring a Trailer, and they go, oh no, the car ride's fine. They don't need to bring a trailer. I'm like, well, no, I'm not saying you need to bring a trailer. I'm saying go to bringatrailer.com.
Yeah.
And like, why do I want to go to Bring a Trailer? Like, I don't need a trailer. I'm like, no. Right. It's like, who's on first? It's like, it's hard to explain.
Exactly.
But I said there are people that just sit and watch Bring a Trailer all day. Like, it's entertainment for some people. Rafi's one of them. I mean, you won an award for being the best commenter of the entire year.
Yes. The Belcord Memorial Award for best commenter. And it was actually quite an honor. I was really surprised to get it because I frequently do comment on the cars. But some pretty smart people with a lot of car knowledge have won that award. So it's quite an honor. So I appreciated it. Plus, I got $1,000 worth of Adams Polishes stuff, and which I've been detailing my cars with since I won the award. So,
and then it's got a free plug because they're giving that stuff away.
There you go.
So now we can say Clutch Radio with award-winning Rafi Manasian.
Award-winning. There you go.
The awards I've won have been participation trophies. They don't count.
Oh, well, everybody's a winner, Dan.
That's true. Ray brings up a couple other things about the Stokes auction. He says he'd estimate there are about 500 buyers online for the auction. Now you can pre-bid though. It's not. I mean, I know there's a live portion, but I think you can also be pre-bidding. So if you have 1,000 people at an auction, it doesn't mean all 1,000 are bidding either.
No, generally speaking, you're going to get about 5 to 10% of people with bidders paddles or active bidders. And of those, you really find that the majority of the sales, the completed sales, are from people buying multiple cars. Because if you're going out there and you're looking for inventory, you want to pick up, more than one car. Even if you're doing classic car stuff, a lot of people will go out to special events. They'll spend the time and money. They might be out there for 3-4 days to grab the auction stuff. They can move 4 or 5 of their own cars. And if they come out with a transporter, you want to load it back up so it's got a full load going back home.
You mean if they bring a trailer?
If they bring a trailer, yeah. So yeah, you can sell 4 and then buy 4 and bring it back, and it's a good way to rotate the inventory.
And Ray points out, which is very true, because of the skepticism of people buying at an auction, People always want cars with lower miles. They're not going to buy the 200,000 mile car.
Yeah.
And just looking on the site right now for their September auction, they had a lot of cars, which already has happened. Some of the bidding is kind of up there. There's not a lot of stuff in the sub $1,000 range, which is exactly what Ray was also commenting, that people are not really looking for the cheapies.
Right.
I'm looking for a Nissan Juke. Oh, here's a Nissan Juke, a blue Nissan Juke.
A blue Juke.
This is Ray's, I believe. It says it went up to, current bid was $5,250. So is that what it sold for, Ray? I guess so, which means he did well.
There you go.
If it got up to $5,250, and that is an eyeball car. I mean, it is weird looking, but it catches your eyeball for sure. But then they have things like County Line Bush Hog rotary cutter.
Oh.
And a John Deere LX4 Bush Hog rotary cutter. Those both, one went for $600, one went for $400.
Now, are those farm equipment? Because
that is farm equipment.
Okay, so now that's actually quite normal at auctions, because most of the automotive auctions started out as farm equipment and livestock auctions. The Barrett-Jackson auction used to take place in Arizona, and it was primarily a farming, livestock, and equipment auction that people started showing up for. And, they would bring cars there. A lot of farmers have stuff in their barns, and they just bring the old junky cars in. This was in the 70s, the mid 70s. And then interest started building in that community. And Tom Barrett, who was the father of the group, he started the sort of auction house stuff and started building it up. And the first one I went to in Arizona was, on a dirt field, and cars were driving around making all kinds of smoke and noise and cattle. But they grew it into quite an event. The Barrett-Jackson auction is considered one of the innovators of the auction platform. Harrah's also was one of the earlier institutions that hosted a major classic car auction. But the classic car auction format goes back to probably the early 70s in terms of multiple vehicles in a specialized platform. But it isn't until the mid 80s that you start to get quite a few of the auction houses trading cars substantially. I think the peak of the volume was probably in the late 80s, when there was a huge boom in the classic car market. But that may have been taken over by the second wave of auction booms, which was in probably 2010 to 2017. Quite a bit of action there.
Yeah, and with digital, though, I think the excitement of the live auction, the auctioneer with the patter and the super fast talking, and
oh yeah.
What I do like is, when I've done auctions for like charity, fundraisers and things, I've done a few of them as the MC. I'm not a licensed auctioneer, so I'm not actually doing the auction part. Let me just clarify that. I mean, I am, but I'm not. But I take it to the, like the British classic car guy, where he's like, could I get 300? Thank you. How about 4? Thank you. Like, he's not doing, hey. There's some people I hear online when I'm attending auctions online. Some of it sounds like they get stuck, like unga, 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 unga. Like they're stuck. And they finally get the words out.
Yeah, well, the old how many? That's again, I think that's a lot of the farmer type auction that you're used to, because the same guy would call a square dance and would also be a yodeler, So a lot of that vernacular and a lot of that chatter, that filler, comes from calling a square dance or yodeling, which is that's the kind of same sort of cadence that you hear a lot in the rural communities for a lot of events, carnival barkering and things like that. And that's that's kind of what was a little bit about the sort of negative connotation early on with auction houses. It's not until you get the Sotheby's type of British auctioneer, as he said, that sort of lends a level of credibility where they talk about the patina. It's not an old rusted car that needs a lot of work. Here we have a fine vehicle with exceptional original patina. So there you go.
And it's better than especially when you go to the live auction, which, someday will be back, and there's 9 lanes going at once.
Yeah.
And I recorded it once. I just, on my phone, I'm like, this is probably what it sounds like to be insane. Because you say, and then there's the ring guy who's like pointing to you and trying to get you to bid up, and they're like staring at you. And I'm sure every dealer has had the experience of buying a car they didn't realize they bought.
Right.
Or they go, whoa, how much are we at?
Right. Where you're not sure. And when you're not sure, and a lot of times these auctions start and the auctioneer says, for a $25,000 car, he says, all right, who's going to open the bidding at 35,000, where? And you don't get any of that. How about 20? Who's in 20? And then he goes, yes, over there. And you go, wait, what happened? What happened is he pointed to the chandelier in the room, and everybody assumes the bid's coming from somebody somewhere, but it's not a real bid, quote unquote. It's an underbid under the reserve, but it's designed to get the people to go, okay, someone's in at 20, it's got to be worth 21. So the real bidding starts then. And in auction vernacular, they call it chandelier bidding. And it's probably not legal, but it's probably also not illegal. So by doing it,
I would say it's on the ethical line. And I think the dealer auctions definitely have a problem now, because if it's 100% online, they can't suddenly put a fake bid in and then take it back.
Right.
Like if somebody bids online, you've bid. So, if the $25,000 car and they start at 35 and they don't have anybody, then all of a sudden they go, okay, 20. And the bidder shows up, it shows the dealership name.
Yeah.
So they can't act like there's a bid. So what they do is they do a floor bid. They act like there's someone in the lane doing it.
Yeah.
And some of the auctions have now said, oh, we'll allow people to come in the lane. If you want to experience the action, you can be in the lane.
Yeah.
Why? What advantage does it have to risk your life to go catch COVID, to go out there, when you can sit at your desk? You don't have to drive. You don't have to do anything.
Well, the bottom line for me on online auctions is they usually last for a week, sometimes longer. And if you've got that time, it means that you're going to be better prepared to look at the car.
Bless you.
You're going to be better prepared to look at the car. Hire somebody to go out there and do a professional inspection. $250, $350, whatever it is. If you're buying a $25,000 car, it's worth the money to do, because you're going to get somebody's eyeballs on that car that knows what they're doing. They're going to look it over. They're going to check it out. And they're going to report back to you, and they're going to say, yes, it's a $25,000 car. Keep bidding. And you keep bidding, based on that information. And if you can see it yourself, all the better. But if you can't do any of those things, the last thing you want to do is you want to make sure you contact the seller and ask them really detailed questions about the history of the car. Comb through the Carfax. Make sure you understand what that car is all about, so that when you are bidding, you're bidding with confidence. That's the challenge when you can't see it in person.
Knowledge is power. When I used to go to the CarMax auction when I worked for Copart, I would buy cars at CarMax, and then we would sell them at Copart for a profit. And people would say, well, how can you buy one auction and sell at another? I'm going to give a really good story in a second that Ray just typed in the comments. But I would do homework, like today's Saturday and tomorrow's Sunday, obviously. The auction's on Monday. I would be sitting, I'd probably spend 5 hours over the weekend. I take the run list. They might have 120 cars. And I would run through Copart's pricing algorithm to figure out exactly what that car should sell for at Copart. And I'd have a number. And I'd have the buy fee, and that's the most I could bid. I couldn't go past that number. And I would just stand in the lane with a clipboard. And if a car was going up, I would just keep bidding. And then so I hit my number, I'd stop. And I had bought 18 cars one week.
Wow.
Some of them were $25.
Oh my goodness, $25
for a running and driving car. It was just a jalopy, driving through, blowing smoke. The buy fee back then for the lowest one was 25. I think now it's 35 or 40. So you're actually paying more in a fee.
Yeah.
No one would bid on it. So I went 25. And he goes, all right, 25. And you think maybe someone would go fit. Nobody wanted it. So I had several cars for 25 bucks. I used to buy cars for $200-300 all the time that would sell a Copart for 800 to 1,000.
Sure.
Probably one of the biggest flips I had was I think it was like an '09 Subaru. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know I think I got it for $800, and it sold at Copart out of the country, went to Mexico, I believe, for $5,200.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah, because other countries don't care about miles because they're going to change it. They don't care about Carfax because they don't have that. If they need the car for parts, or they need the car because they need running and driving cars in other countries, and so it was a huge plus. Now Ray mentions this, that he bought a car at Manheim Auto Auction, the dealer auction, for $5,600.
Yeah.
Went to flip at another dealer auction for $7,100, and he rejected it. That was his high bid, and he ended up taking it to CarMax.
Oh,
and they gave him $8,500 for it.
Wow, that's great.
So, I mean, CarMax is in need for cars. If it's a car they can retail, they're going to step up and pay all the money. If it's a car they know they can just flip at auction. Now, my question to Ray is, did he end up then buying it back at the CarMax auction 2 weeks later for $4,500 and just keep flipping it?
Well,
the CarMax auction is 100% dealer only. You cannot even attend it if you're not a dealer. Like to get a badge, you can't bring friends, you can't bring coworkers. You're not supposed to. People do sneak some people in here or there.
Yeah,
but everyone's supposed to be wearing the bidder badge.
Well, you can make good money on cars, mostly because a lot of people don't have the education and don't take the time to learn about cars. So when they go to buy, they're comfortable paying retail price for a car that looks and feels like it's all done and ready to go. People will buy that kind of confidence in the visual representation of the car. That's why when I sell a car, I always make sure that it's clean, that it's, had all its mechanical service work done. Everything is up to date. Everything is ready to go. Yeah, you spend some money to do that, but you're selling something that you can feel confident about, putting the money out there, and then people come to buy it because they want to buy with that confidence as well. Even a car that's junky. I had a $600 AMC Marlin, and it needed everything. It didn't even run, but I spent a lot of time cleaning it up. So when the person came to see it, he took one look at it and he said, that's what I want. It's exactly what I'm looking for. I'll take it. And I thought it was a $600 Marlin. He paid $1,000 for it. So you never know.
Yeah, you never do know what, and value's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there could be a car that just reminds somebody of, their first car or their grandmother. When I bought the car I called Big Red Mama, which was a 62 Chrysler Newport, I bought it across the water over in Shoreline.
Sure.
The guy bought it when the classic cars were at their peak, in the mid to late 2000s, early 2000s. He spent a ton of money on it because it was the same car his grandmother had, same color even. And Rafi was offended by that. And he loved the car, so he went ahead and bought it, and he was going to restore it. And then the economy got really tight in 07, 08, and he just let it sit. And then I bought it, I believe, in 2010. And, he was emotionally attached to this car, and he finally was able to get rid of it. I mean, I paid $2,100. And I think I ended up selling it a few years later to a guy in Germany for $8,000 on eBay. Yeah. But I also spent a ton of money, getting it painted red, getting the body work done, getting the engine work done, putting in new wheels and tires.
Yeah.
It was a good looking car. So emotional attachment. Like if I could find a 79 Bonneville in dark blue with a light blue Landau roof.
There you go.
I would probably grab it because that was the car I learned to drive in.
You heard it here, listeners and watchers. Find that car for Dan, and he will reward you handsomely.
Yeah, maybe.
maybe.
And since we're talking about old cars, I think it's time for us to go old school.
We're going old school today, Dan. We're going big. We're going long. We're going far out.
How far out?
We're going to the wonderful disco 70s for the big, enormous American land yacht. And yes, there are many out there, but the king of land yachts has to be the Lincoln Continental. So that's our old school car for today. Unbelievable automobile. Enormous, enormous. The door on a 1979 Lincoln Continental, the Continental Mark V, is almost the same size as the original Mini Cooper. That's how big, that is how big the Lincoln Continental Mark V truly was. Now, you could get these cars in all kinds of wonderful configurations, including special trim. So there was a whole series of special trim that came with it, including, I don't know, the Diamond Edition, the Pierre Cardin Edition, the Bill Blass Edition. There were all kinds of editions and hundreds of options, velour interior, chrome all over the place, white wall tires, Landau roof. You see the little opera window on the side there. Just everything you could possibly imagine about the excess of America in the 70s, particularly the late 70s, where everybody was wearing disco bell-bottom jeans and bright colored suits, permed hair. There you go. Look at that. That's all kinds of Americana there. And these cars were exorbitantly expensive when new. And today you can get them for many of them for less than $10,000. If you wanted a really good looking one with nice paint and nice original interior, you might pay $15,000. Now that's not a lot of money for a car that just oozes class. But get ready when you get inside to drive, because I'll tell you what, even though the power steering is absolutely like butter, you could drive with one hand, you could drive with one finger. But these things are enormous. There's probably anywhere between 9 and 10 feet between your eye and the front of the car. So when you turn the car, you actually turn the car and the car keeps going straight for a little while and then turns. That's how big these cars are. The trunk is enormous. Now, Dan's just put up a photo of the interior. Look at that tufted velour on those seats. Just imagine the comfort. And that's just one layer. Beneath that layer, there's another layer of seat. So how about that? You could get the moonroof, which had a reflective roof surface on the top so that you couldn't quite completely see in, but it allowed sun in, and it also allowed moonlight through as well. Power steering, power disc brakes, air conditioning, 8-track tape. Woo! I'm talking about amazing 8-track sound.
It had it all.
Oh, yeah. I think some of them came with quadraphonic sound as an option as well. Again, and this one is leather interior, which you could get. That was an option as well. Leather interior. Yes, cracked. That's
bright red.
Oh, yes. Very bright red. And you get the added benefit of watching all of those bright red colors fade at a different rate. So they never match. When you go to buy one that's 40 years old, you're going to find a little bit of difference in the toning of some of that molded vinyl. But that's okay, because that's part of the charm of these cars. Make sure when you go to buy one of these, make sure that that the seals are good for the doors and the moonroof, because when you get moisture inside these cars, they're giant sponges. So they will hold on to that moisture, and they'll get mildew in there, and they'll smell pretty bad. So open the doors, sit in the interior, close the windows, and make sure that it's had no water damage, because that's one of the problems that's very expensive to fix. Get one with really nice interior. You do not want to have to pay for the interior to be redone. And shop.
This is one you don't want.
Yeah, this is one you don't want. This is a car that probably the owner should pay you to take away. Would take quite a bit of effort to get this car to where it was enjoyable and drivable. It looks like it could be a good car, but you're going to spend at least $5,000 to $10,000 on the mechanical work. Not to mention what might be wrong with some of the seals. The paint is going to cost you $5,000 to $10,000. The trunk could have some rust.
Wait, look what's in the trunk.
8-track tapes.
Box full of 8 tracks. That alone, they're asking $1,100. It might be worth it just for that.
I'm guessing there's some BGs in there. Probably at least one staying alive 8-track. There you go. You see, here's a problem with a lot of these cars. They get used up and they don't get repaired or they get repossessed. And then you got a problem. Look, I can just see the rust on the roof line where the sunroof or moonroof is. And that's going to cost you a lot of money to make right.
So that's 12 feet.
What's that?
The tape measure is at 12 feet. I'm not sure why they have the tape measure there.
To show you how big that roof is. Oh, yeah. But when you find a beautiful one that is in really good condition, pay the money for it. If you like this kind of thing, they're fantastic cars. And there are also other competitive marks out there that were built around the same time. But really, if you're going to step up to buy one of these things, buy a Lincoln. Buy the Continental Mark V. They made the Mark III and the Mark IV, of course, which are also enormous cars. But the Mark V was the last of this really, truly outrageous, out of control edition.
Look at that customized one.
Yeah. A lot of money spent there to customize it. Not sure it's worth it, but you get a unique car when you're done. And that's what the key is with customizing cars like this. You're going to get something that's completely unique and novel and built to your specifications. That's always a lot of fun. Custom cars, you probably aren't going to make your money back, but that may not be the goal when you first set out to do it. I always like to buy or recommend people buy the closest to original possible. And they came in wonderful colors. They came in beautiful metallic blue, turquoise, light colors, dark colors. Lots of options, usually twin gold stripes, thin pinstripes on the door. You can even get your initials monogrammed on the door when you bought new. Look at that. The Collector's Series Mark V. Stunning automobile. Stunning. There you go.
Now, if you wanted the cheaper one, you could, of course, get the T-Bird.
You could.
The T-Bird back then was about this size. It was pretty big. Wasn't as luxurious.
That's true.
And I believe the Mercury Cougar was the other one.
The Cougar was quite a bit smaller than, and that the Cougar was the Mercury division. So it was not part of the Lincoln division, although it was a Lincoln Mercury product. But the Mercury was the lower or mid range of Ford's offering. Ford being the standard offering, Mercury being the slightly mid-range one, and then Lincoln being the top. And there was actually, for a while, the Continental was its own independent brand. There's the T-Bird. So the Continental was the premium above the Lincoln. And then they merged the two names together, Lincoln Continental. So here's the T-Bird, which is not as large as the Continental, but has a lot of similar looks, as Dan points out. These are going to be a little bit cheaper, probably not as expensive to maintain because the components will not be as expensive or as unique, but there's a lot of similar qualities in this car. I personally prefer the look of the Continental. And again, if you're going to go old school and go completely overboard and fully disco, do get the Continental.
Can't get much more disco than this one, though.
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
There's the Mercury version of the car.
Yep. That is very, and you know, that rich blue with tan everywhere. You've got the tan trim, the tan bumper trim, the tan grille trim, the tan colored wheels, the tan Landau top, the tan interior. It's so much tan.
Well, this particular one, believe it or not, was on Bring a Trailer.
Oh, really? And what did it sell for?
It did not sell. It was bid up to $3,000 back in 2018.
There you go. And see, you know, that's a lot of car for $3,000. Now, sure, the seller didn't cut it loose. It's understandable. He might have wanted $5,000 for it, but he isn't going to want $25,000 for it unless it's a really unusual, unique car. But it looks to me Like it's just a Mercury Cougar.
They might have some upgrades in the interior there.
Could be, could be. But these cars are out there still. And the upside to them when you buy a good one is you bought one that's been really well maintained, because these cars were bought by people that had a lot of money, and so they continued to take care of their cars. Often they're low mile cars. It's not unusual to find an all original Continental Mark V that might have 35,000 miles, never been repainted, never been hit, never been damaged, always maintained by the dealer. You get a lot of car there for 15 grand.
So the Mercury or the Lincoln Continental Mark V. Now the four-door, you're not saying to get like a town car.
No, the town car, certainly, if you've got a family and you want to take everybody out in it, you want a little more room, you can get those. The town car is going to be cheaper than the Mark V because it's a four-door, and four-doors tend to be less expensive or less desired by collectors. So if you did get the four-door, you'd certainly save a little bit of money, but ultimately you'd want to get that two-door.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I remember when I worked at the first dealership I ever worked at. It was Livingston Pontiac in Woodland Hills, California.
There you go.
Somebody traded in, I believe it was a 73, so it would have been a Mark IV probably. It might have been the Mark III. I don't know when the years cut off to go 3 to 4 to 5. It was white with a green leather interior.
Oh, yeah.
And we took it in on trade for $2,500.
Yeah.
And this is 1993.
Okay.
So it's like a 20-year-old car.
Yeah.
I remember one of the old sales guys who say, that's you, man. You picture yourself pulling up to the comedy club in that car.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the keys to the valet and going in. Everybody's like, who's that guy?
Right. You'd be wearing a white jacket, no socks, tan shoes, and a black T-shirt.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I wanted to get that car. I remember we sold it for $49.95. We had it advertised in the Penny Saver, and the guy came and bought it for $4,500.
There you go. Yeah.
But it was a land yacht for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You could have a dinner of 12 on the hood.
You'll never see cars like that again. They just won't exist ever again. The SUV, the giant SUV is sort of a version of that now, where people are overcarred with these giant SUVs, but it doesn't have the class and the presence and the girth in the same way that Lincoln Continental did.
Well, that's old school for this week, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
That's a fun old school, and it's an affordable old school.
Affordable, fully affordable.
Because they are out there. Speaking of affordable, we got to talk gas prices. Then we'll end this shindig for today.
All right.
So here we go.
How much is gas where you live?
Let's wait. Just before we start gas prices, we have shindig and jalopy. Those are the two words for today. Kids, if you haven't heard your grandfather say these words.
we come over and we'll yarn a little bit here. And
back when I was a kid, we had shindigs. We'd drive our jalopies over.
I always thought it'd be fun to like name a car company, have a car lot called Jalopy Motors.
There you go.
Actually, my other idea was Armageddon Motors, which are all cars that had no electronics whatsoever. So if Armageddon hit and none of the electronics worked, you could still drive that car.
You'd be prepared.
Yeah,
Burner
cars.
Burner cars.
So what we do every week is we talk about gas prices, and it's always the same state that has the lowest. So today I'm going to go with diesel. Who do you think has the lowest diesel?
Lowest diesel.
What state has the lowest diesel in the entire country?
I'm going to go with Oklahoma as the lowest diesel. I was going to.
So close. They're number 2.
Then is number 1 Texas? Because I know they have quite a bit of the number 3.
Number 3. It's Missouri.
Missouri with number 1 lowest price on diesel. Now, are they
$1.99.8 is the average in Missouri?
Wow. And what's the Oklahoma price?
$2 and $2.50 a penny. So 2.005.
So between number 1 and number 2 is a split of less than a penny. Am I?
It's 1.3 cents.
Okay, so that's pretty close, but wow, Missouri for the lowest diesel. I would not have expected that, just based on the volume. But maybe Missouri has a higher level of volume consumption than Oklahoma.
Well,
Well, not
Jim Jones in Florida is telling us that gas at Costco is $1.99
$1.99 in Florida.
in Florida at Costco. You can
At
get
Costco.
$1.99 gas.
Well, that's possible because Florida has some of the highest retired age population, and I'm guessing those folks aren't driving very much. So the lower price fuel cost is probably an incentive to do more driving, especially now that summer's over. But that's a good price for
The average in Florida is only $2.10 right now. So you're going to Costco, you're saving 11 cents a gallon.
Well, yeah, and if you put 20 gallons into your car, that's some savings there.
Yeah, and I because I'm driving an electric car now. I went to Costco last week, and
You bought electricity?
I looked at the pumps, and I was like, I'm here. I don't need it anymore.
Did you actually get in line? You should do that just once. Just get in line, go to it, and then ask the service guy there. This is a new car. I don't know where to put the gas.
There are no service people at Costco. That is 100% self-serve. But yeah, it would be fun. There was a guy who had a Tesla. There's a video out there. A guy's like trying to figure out how to. He's like holding the thing in his hand, walking around a Tesla.
There you go.
What do I? It's a called electric.
Well,
I started doing the electric slide at that point.
there you go. Gas prices are going to be coming down. They have to come down. We finished the summer. Sales were not what was expected, although numbers did pick up. The traffic did increase, but kids on school buses aren't being moved around like they used to be. So diesel for those school buses is now going to be in surplus. The price of gas has to come down because we're in the fall. People are going to be driving less. Not as many people commuting anymore. I think we're going to see some gas price decreases going into October.
Yes. Tim just said I'm ignorant. I'm not sure why.
Who just said he's ignorant?
Tim was. Maybe there's sarcasm there. I'm not sure.
Well, it's hard to tell. It's hard to read.
We do not have enough cars to sell. Oh, you don't have enough cars to sell. You do need more cars to sell.
Yeah.
He's a car sales guy.
All right.
But gas in general, though, $2.80 here in the Washington area, in Washington for the whole state. It's down 0.1 penny since yesterday. And it's down almost 2 cents over the month, and almost 50 cents since a year ago.
Yeah. You know what we'll have to talk about in the next show, because I see we're almost wrapping up today. We've got a lot more to talk about, but the car makers are struggling right now with what the next major innovation is going to be in fuel economy and tech for cars, because as car companies move their vehicle fleets through hybrid and electric vehicles, people are going to be looking for the next boost of technology that's going to come into automobiles. And we can talk a little bit about that in our next show, because there's some interesting things that are being developed right now, primarily in the SUV platform. But it's going to be interesting to see what that next level of technology is that's brought into the modern automobile.
Yes, and also you shared an interesting link with our car group the other day about the IT and how, or excuse me, IP, intellectual property, and how China is basically making carbon copies of pretty much everything. But there are cars now that they are making exact duplicates over there of cars that would be here. And when those cars start hitting this market, which eventually that'll happen.
Oh yeah. China is a juggernaut. We'll talk about that, and we'll save that topic for our next show.
All right.
All righty, Dan.
Well, that has been Clutch Radio for today. I've been Dan.
And I've been Rafi.
award-winning, Rafi. We'll see you next time. And if you listen to the podcast, check out the live show. It's Saturdays at 10 a.m. West Coast time. That's it. Goodbye.